It's Thursday, August 14th, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. This is Spathon and it's time to plunge into the swamp to see what happened today. The U.S. Department of Justice has announced that 1.6 million illegal immigrants have voluntarily left the United States of America since the beginning of Trump's second administration. Attorney General Pamela Bondi in the Department of Justice has issued demand letters to sanctuary cities and states and counties informing them to either enforce federal immigration law or the DOJ will see them in court. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director Todd Lyons speaks with WIBC in Indianapolis, giving an inside scoop on the new criminal illegal detention center named Speedway Slammer, and we'll give that a listen. And President Trump signs a proclamation commemorating the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act today. Secretary Sean Duffy of the U.S. Department of Transportation announced that our country just had our 1,000th private company space launch, also announcing the president's executive order boosting the U.S. space industry. Also, Florida has immediately banned the sale of hydroxymetragenine, otherwise known as 7-OH, which is commonly found in smoke shops and gas stations around the state. 2 weeks ago, the FDA and HHS announced they are referring 7-OH to the DEA for scheduling because they consider this substance to be dangerous. The FBI arrested 45 criminals in Washington, D.C. last night, 25 of whom are illegal immigrants. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, unemployment in metro cities has been on the rise since June 2024, and we'll have a look at that. And there's lots more to dig through, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I just might read your comment on the next episode if you decide to drop one. So we're just going to get started right now. On the House Foreign Affairs Committee majority, Russia knows the rest of the world doesn't need them as a trading partner. The Kremlin's war coffers could dry up overnight, and Putin needs to come to the table and actually make a deal. So we're going to check this out from Fox Business. Let me just make sure my sound's good. I think my sound's good, so let's give this a crack.
The Financial Times also reporting that Europe wants President Trump to use sanctions against Russia for added pressure. Is that a good approach?
Oh, yeah, man, put on that Russia pressure.
I think it needs to be absolutely a part of this. I think President Trump, he does his best when he's creating these ultimatums, whether it's what took place with Iran previously, and I think it can be what takes place with Russia right now. When you look at this situation, he needs to make sure that Vladimir Putin and Russia know, in my opinion, that the world doesn't need them. The world has worked to wean off of their oil, their gas.
We live on planet America now, son.
Vodka, you name it. But for a few countries that are still using oil and gas, that's going to come to an end soon, because the president is going to make that very painful to be reliant on those cash cows for Russia that's allowing them to prosecute this war. So when that comes to an end, they're not going to have those resources
that's how they're bankrolling it.
I think he needs to make those ultimatums, and he does best when he does.
Do you think China is watching this very interestedly? Of course they are, but if there's some concessions of land to Russia, I mean, is Taiwan in the mix here as far as China's concerned?
Oh, it's always a shadow over what could be Taiwan policy. Certainly land concessions being a part of that, but certainly also what I just spoke of as well, oil and gas being a huge part of it. China and India both being large purchasers of Russia oil and gas, as well as China being a large purchaser of Iranian oil and gas. And so when you look at those millions of barrels a day coming offline for them, it's a very big deal for them, and certainly they're looking at it for their financial markets.
Well, I don't know about all that. I mean, if Russia's oil supply drops by millions of barrels a day, I think that's only going to jack up prices of oil across the world. Isn't that how they do that? They gauge the cost of oil based on the global production, not just production inside the U.S. I could be wrong. I'm no expert on it. I just assume that it's somewhat of a global thing. I don't know. It's going to be difficult for countries like India, though, if we try to incentivize a country like India to stop using Russian oil, because there's 1.4 billion people that live there, and as far as I know, they're still adding numbers of vehicles to the road on a daily basis. But anyway, that's not exactly related to what's happening here. But Trump, he's meeting with Putin tomorrow. So that's the big meeting up in Alaska. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I'm definitely going to be watching that, most likely live tomorrow as it happens. hopefully a deal will be made. Hopefully it'll be good. I doubt it's probably going to be televised live. I'm just going to kind of listen from the sidelines, probably on here, just keeping an eye on the White House and basically just my government list that I have made up here on X and just see how things go. Trump did say that within 2 or 3 minutes, he's going to have a pretty good gauge as to whether or not if Putin is going to make a deal. At least that's what he said in a previous press conference the other day. I don't know. Hopefully it'll go well. But I think that Vladimir Zelensky did say that he's not willing to give up land. At least that's what I've heard. I don't know. If you heard anything different, leave it in the comments because I'd be curious. I look at this stuff all day. I didn't see anything stating otherwise. So tomorrow, we're going to learn a lot tomorrow. Or we're going to learn nothing. Maybe it'll be completely counterproductive. Hell, for all we know, maybe Putin at the last minute decides, I'm not going to show up. I don't know, man. Weird, stranger things have happened. All right, so let's move on here to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Listen now, Speedway Slammer. Inside scoop from acting ICE Director Todd Lyons on 93 WIBC in Indianapolis, Indiana radio. So we're going to give this a listen. I have not listened to this yet, so I'm going to learn this right along with you. And we're just going to hear what he's going to mention about that. This, by the way, if you're not familiar with Speedway Slammer, the only thing that I've heard about it is that it's going to be resembling somewhat like Alligator Alcatraz here in Florida, in the way that they're going to house the most violent illegal criminals there. Not sure if it's going to be a long-term facility or a short-term facility. Not sure about that, but maybe he'll give us some insight into that. So let's give this a listen.
We had some news here in Indy recently. A new detainment facility, a federal ICE facility to be opened up in Miami County in Indiana. Walk me through the process of how maybe this came to be and why this is important.
Well, Secretary Noem, she's dedicated to working with her state partners. She used to be a governor. She reached out to the governor of Indiana. Indiana was really welcoming to ICE. They want to support our mission.
Awesome.
So, we're able to use the Miami Correctional Facility. It's now being referred to as the Speedway Slammer. It's an Indiana prison. We're going to be able to house some of the worst there that we get. And it's going to be key for ICE because in the Midwest, especially the central part of the United States, we really don't have a lot of bed space. So for us to accomplish our mission and get some of these worst and the worst out, we need cooperations from states like the state of Indiana. So we're going to be able to have between 600 and 1,000 beds there. Like I said, some of the worst. It's really going to help us make America safe again.
Yep, the worst of the worst. So the Speedway Slammer sounds like it's a facility that's already been built, already in operation. It's been a long time since I've been in Indianapolis. The last time I was there was in 2013. I was born there, but I've lived more than half my life outside of that city. I'm trying to remember, if memory serves, there was a women's prison that was pretty close to the Speedway, if not in Speedway, Indiana, because like Speedway is technically a city inside Indianapolis. So let me see. Actually, I wonder if I should actually ask Grok instead, but let's just check this out. Maybe I'll get a little bit of info on it on here. New partnership with DHS. Oh, here we go. Homeland Security.gov. So let's learn a little bit about the Speedway Slammer. So today, this was back on August the 5th, so this isn't within the 24 hours that I usually try to stick to with news and current events. But anyway, today, the Department of Homeland Security announced a new partnership with the state of Indiana to expand ICE detention space by 1,000 beds. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is partnering with the Indiana Department of Corrections, and these beds will be available at the Miami Correctional Center. The Speedway Slammer will house some of the worst criminal illegal aliens arrested by ICE. This agreement was made possible by the One Big Beautiful Bill. This law fully funded the 287G program and provided funding to secure 80,000 new beds for ICE to utilize when detaining and deporting the worst of the worst. Damn, that's a lot of beds. So coming soon to Indiana, the Speedway Slammer. Today, we're announcing a new partnership with the state of Indiana to expand detention bed space by 1,000 beds, said Secretary Noem. Thanks to Governor Braun for his partnership to help remove the worst of the worst out of our country. If you are in America illegally, you could find yourself in Indiana Speedway Slammer. Avoid arrest and self-deport now using the CBP Home app. We're proud to work with President Trump, Secretary Noem, as they remove the worst. Indiana's taken a comprehensive approach, combating illegal immigration, so on and so forth. Okay. All right, so we got that. And you know what? I think I'm going to go over to Grok because I got a question. So I'm going to take a quick grab over here. Because I'm wondering if they may have closed that women's prison and they might be repurposing it. It would seem... Whoa, what the hell happened? What the fuck? All right, I don't know what the hell happened there. All right, so... Oh, wait, at the Miami Correctional Facility in Bunker Hill... What? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. Hold on. It refers to an expansion of detention space at the Miami Correctional Facility in Bunker Hill, Indiana, not a new building. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security partnered with India. Okay. All right. So let's take a quick look here. I am not familiar with that at all. Where the hell is Bunker Hill? I thought it was in Indianapolis. That's what I figured. Apparently not. Apparently it's not there. So let's see. Actually, I wanted to do... Let's go... Well, hell, I already got this up, so I might as well. All right, so Bunker Hill, Indiana. Where is it going to put us? Miami Correctional Facility. Okay, so it's already a prison. It's already an existing prison. So, yeah, so they've already got inmates there, apparently. Sounds like they're just going to just use some of the open space. I assume there's open space here that they're going to be using for it. Let's zoom out of here a little bit just to try to get an idea as to where this is exactly. Logansport, Fort Wayne. Okay, so it's like in the northern area of Indiana. Yeah, it's north of Indianapolis, north of Kokomo. So it's kind of sort of out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it is. It's basically out in the middle of nowhere. Let's switch over to satellite, see if we can get a decent view of this place. Man, dude, they got an airstrip there and everything. Holy shit. Oh, Grissom Joint Air Reserve Base. Okay, all right. Well, that would make sense. So, damn, dude, they got this bitch on a fucking military base, man. Or at least next door to it. Yeah, they're not getting out of this thing. All right. Well, there you have it. Let me see if I can do a quick street view here. See if we can get, I don't know, maybe somewhat of a view of what it might be looking like. All right. Yeah, there you go. There it is. There's the Speedway Slammer. And that's what they're going to be using to put some of the illegal immigrants in it. Makes total sense. There's an airstrip there. That way they can just deport them right from there. Seems legit. Seems legit to me. All right. So there's that. And let's head on back to the list and we'll get moving on to the next thing. I'll link this in the description below if you want to check out that article. And let's go down to the next one here from Kingsley Wilson. The Department of Defense is getting back to having uniform standards across the department under the President of the United States and Secretary of Defense Hegseth. We are bringing back merit. That is something young men and women want to sign up for. Absolutely, dude. Meritocracy all the way.
We want to have the same uniform standards across this department. So we're no longer going to have,
crank that down a little bit.
Action, people meeting quotas and being given promotions when they aren't deserved. We're getting back to merit. That is the only thing that's going to matter in this military. Can you do the job? Are you performing? Are you pursuing excellence? Those
bring
are
back
the types
evaluations
of
if they did away with those too.
And men want to sign up to do. They want to be a part of something, especially young people, right? We've seen a lot of young people across this country looking for purpose and looking to make a difference. And the military is a great avenue for them to do just that.
A lot of people signing up, man.
Leadership experience. It allows you to protect your country.
They want to serve under President Trump.
Patriotism
second term
that we have lost over the previous administration's leadership. So we're getting back to that, and we're making sure that young people are signing up and proud to serve their country again.
That's weird seeing Matt Gaetz on TV. It's just weird. I doubt he has a background in journalism. It's just kind of weird. He's kind of giving sellout vibes, man. It's irritating that he just left the house. I don't know all the details about that. Apparently there were some controversies happening and so on and so forth. I mean, obviously because he left. Do you think he would have made a good attorney general? I was actually kind of excited to hear that at first because I haven't really seen him performing poorly when he was on any of the oversight committees and doing his work in the House. But I don't know. I guess we're never going to find out. But anyway, so let's see if I got this. All right, yep, got it sized up proper. So this is from Caroline Levitt. Check this out. 1.6 million illegal immigrants have left the United States in less than 200 days under the Trump administration. This comes from Fox News, and I will probably play that clip. I might give that a play. Hold on. Well, you know what? They got it up right now. Might as well go for it. Let's just check it out. Fuck it.
Milestone of President Trump's immigration crackdown. The DHS Secretary Kristi Noem posting to X that
what do we got for volume here?
Illegal immigrants have left the United States in less
I'll leave
than
it alone.
200 days.
Just a little quiet is all.
Secretary Noem joins us now from South Dakota. Secretary, good of you to be with us.
We really
appreciate it. I want to get into those numbers in just a second, but first of all, there's some breaking news that came up in the president's appearance in the Oval Office.
Did you see that South Park episode?
An executive order has gone out.
Kristi Noem shooting all those dogs. That was fucked up.
Here in Washington, D.C. that says that effective immediately, if police during something like a routine traffic stop happen to come across the immigration status of a person, they're now allowed to share that information with federal officials. D.C.'s not an official sanctuary city, but how did this come about? Was this pressure from DHS or from the president?
I believe it was, and I think it's not pressure necessarily from the president or from the media, but probably from their citizens that live in D.C.
60,000 immigrants in ICE detention right now.
They have to, live with every single day. So the people have obviously spoken that they're tired of living with this crime, and the fact that they'll share that information with their ICE officers now is phenomenal. That's a game changer. That means that as soon as they encounter somebody who's committing a crime, they'll share that with ICE, and we'll be able to get those illegal criminals out of this country, and we'll make America safer. So that's what we need New York City to do. We need LA to do that.
Absolutely.
We need Chicago to do that. We need all these other leaders to grow up and start sharing this information on these criminals that shouldn't be in our country in the first place, and send them back home to face the consequences for their crimes.
Look, I understand why these Democrat leaders in these major cities are trying to keep illegal immigrants in their cities. They're trying to beef up their congressional numbers. They're trying to get extra seats in the House. But why are they hoping and trying like hell to keep the violent criminals in? That's what the Trump administration is mainly going after. As of right now, they're trying to get the worst of the worst out of here, the ones that they know about. Those are the ones they're rounding up. I just don't understand why they've got a big problem with that. Why do you want to keep criminals in your city? It's weird. It doesn't make any sense. It's like they want chaos and they want their own citizens. It's like they're punishing their own constituents. I just don't understand. I don't get it.
That John and Aisha, that I want to talk about today is these incredible numbers that you just at the top of this hit, is that we have 1.6 illegal immigrants that have left this country voluntarily.
Amazing.
And I think these numbers just show exactly the genius of Donald J. Trump.
And you know what? I bet a lot more would leave if they start going after the landlords who are renting to illegal immigrants. The same, obviously, with employers who aren't using E-Verify. That's another way of going after the illegal immigrants that are not self-deporting right now. Go after their source of income and go after where they're living. And punish the landlords at the very least. That's, I guess, if you can find them. I suppose, technically, if you can find where all of the illegal immigrants are renting from, you could just grab them right there, scoop them up, and then deport them from there. But that costs a lot of money to go through that whole process. And there's just too many. There's too many millions that are living here. So they could actually go after landlords if they're able to compile that data to find out where they're all living and punish the landlords. I don't know. Somebody came up with that idea and it sounded good at the time. It still sounds good. I haven't heard an argument against it, at least not as of now.
The brilliant mind that he has, that when he was elected in November, he knew he had to make America safe again. And he said, Kristi, if you're going to be my Homeland
self-deportation,
Security
that's the cheapest way to go.
We're going to follow the law.
For the American
you're going to
taxpayers.
Do commercials. You're going to tell the world that no longer will we tolerate people being in our country illegally and that they need to go home. And he messaged it strong. There were consequences if you broke the law and you were a criminal in this country and you needed to leave. And overwhelmingly, the world got the message. They're leaving on their own, which is the best thing for American citizens. Not only did 1.6 million people leave the United States that shouldn't be here.
Dude, DEA, they're packing body cameras too.
2.5 million Americans became employed in the last 6-7 months. That's incredible growth for U.S. citizens that will benefit their families and the people who love this country, who were born here, who want to be employed, and now have new opportunities for success as well.
Okay, I want to get to some new video if we can, Secretary. This is coming from our reporters in LA right now, where they say that Border Patrol has arrived just outside of the downtown LA venue where Governor Gavin Newsom was actually holding a press conference today.
Oh, this brain dead protester over here.
That those Border Patrol agents are making arrests, illegal immigrants that I don't know if they were at this press conference, if they were in the area, but this is a very, as John put it when we first saw this video, a very in-your-face way to let, Democrats know that you are going to do your job, that you're going to carry out these Trump policies. Can you just respond to this video that we're watching right now?
Yeah, every single one of our
a dangerous criminal, probably.
Operations is built on information, on investigative work. It's a case and an operation that has been planned because of who they think could be in that area and what they have for information that shows that there are illegal criminals there. Remember, we're focusing on the worst of the worst. So I don't know specific to what information that they had for that operation that they planned today.
Which is hilarious how Democrat mayors are pushing back so hard against this.
Law enforcement officers do for every single operation they conduct to make sure that they're getting dangerous criminals off our streets.
Why are you protecting
as we
evil
saw last
people?
Week, Secretary, there was a little bit of an in-your-face move where the Border Patrol were making arrests just to show California
and they make it damn near impossible to have a gun.
State status, that ICE is going to continue to do its job. I wanted
to switch and talk they hate everybody. They hate
about
everybody.
The southern border, because I looked up the statistics here, and this graph really kind of tells the tale. This is Southwest border
encounters, huh?
Year over year. You see all the lines of 2022, 23, and 24, way up there.
Oh, way up,
in the
dude.
Hundreds of
300,000 almost
you see this green
for 2023.
line at the bottom, which is fiscal year
275.
2025. And you see when President Trump took office, that number goes from about 100,000 per month down to almost zero. My question for you is, that's dramatic decline, but are you satisfied with where we are now, or is there more work to do?
Well, they're still building the wall.
We'll keep a secure border, and we'll do
I reported on that yesterday.
No illegal immigrants come into this country, but that's President Trump's messaging. That's him making sure that people know the rule of law will be enforced, telling the world that if you want to come to this country illegally, you can't anymore, and this will come first.
All right, Secretary of Homeland Security, Christina.
Amen. So there you have it.
Appreciate your time, Madam Secretary.
All right. So I don't think that there's an article below this. I think, this is just the video. That's why it popped up so large initially. So obviously I will go ahead and link that in the description too. Hopefully that's not going to start playing in the background. But yeah, they're building a wall still. They're adding more border wall to the border. And the company that the Biden administration sold the border wall material for pennies on the dollar, apparently the government had reacquired it from that company, and they're considering having an investigation as to how much they paid for it, and are we paying for it more so than what we bought it from? Apparently there's, some shady business going on there, especially how this company just for like 5 cents on the dollar, it was like practically nothing that they bought this border wall material from the U.S. government. But they got it back, and they're putting it up right now. So hopefully we'll hear some progress on that in the near future. So this comes from the Department of State. Secretary Rubio discusses how the U.S. is addressing drug trafficking in the Western Hemisphere. Quote, there are designated narco-terrorist groups operating in the region, some of them utilizing international airspace. What the fuck? International airspace. What are they launching drugs up on rockets now? International waters to transit poison into the United States, and those groups will be confronted. POTUS has made that clear. He's made a crystal. Wait. Oh my God, don't play yet. I got this shit maxed out. I was about to explode some eardrums. Uh-oh. All right.
Question, if I may.
All right, here we go. We're good.
Asking about whether U.S. forces will be involved in the Western Hemisphere going after drug traffickers and drug trafficking networks. There are designated narco-terrorist groups operating in the region, some of them utilizing international airspace, international waters to transit poison into the United States. And those groups will be confronted. The president's made that clear from the time he operated.
I know, they're talking about planes. They're not talking about rockets. I was just fucking around.
Which is a criminal organization that happens to masquerade as a government. The Maduro regime is not a government. It's not a legitimate government. We've never recognized them as such. They are a
Biden administration tried to.
That basically has taken control of national territory of a country, and who, by the way, are also threatening U.S. oil companies that are operating lawfully in Guyana. So,
lovely.
The president's been very firm. Anything that's a threat to the national security of the United States, he's going to confront.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens with Venezuela. I mean, I'm in no way at all advocating for troops to head down in the area, but I mean, if they keep posturing against the oil companies in Guyana, which is, I believe it's right next door to Venezuela, I don't know, man. Shit could get interesting. It certainly would be nice. You know how we sent in the military back in 2003 and we wiped out Saddam Hussein's regime? I'm not saying that we should necessarily be doing that in Venezuela, but it kind of seems like the same kind of situation. The people are being oppressed. The inflation has gone absolutely bananas in Venezuela. And it went from the richest country in South America in the early 2000s to the poorest in something like less than 10 years. And Venezuela has some of the largest untapped oil reserves on the planet. From what I've heard with their oil reserves, though, that the oil is really dirty. Not sure exactly what that means, but apparently it has to undergo a lot more refining to get it into gasoline quality. So I guess it's more expensive to refine, but as far as the oil reserves they've got shitloads. They used to offer gasoline free to their citizens. You just pull up to a gas pump and you just pump and drive. And that's still the policy in Venezuela, but you can't find any gas stations that have any gas. So that's an obvious problem. All right, so let's move on to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Target shooting helps kids slow down and take aim by building discipline, focus, and lifelong connections to the outdoors. Through programs like NASP and 4-H, our three efforts, which is recruit, retain, and reactivate, grow shooting sports and invest in conservation, public lands, and wildlife. That is awesome. Yep, our young teens, young adults, getting into guns, getting into target practice. Love to see it. I really like to see it. Now, I'm not old enough to remember this, but apparently once upon a time, public schools, they used to have gun clubs. And students, probably back in when was that? Probably the 50s, 60s, maybe even in the 70s, probably. That students, they would actually bring their guns to school because they had gun club after school. So, yeah, imagine seeing that today. Yeah, good luck with that. Especially after just the other day, I showed on my show the FBI statistics with regard to school crimes over the last 5 years, and it was well over 1 million. It was like 1.2 million crimes that occurred on public school campuses over just the last 5 years. Just a shocking number. All right, so anyway, this is from the White House. Yesterday, the president signed an executive order to fill the Strategic Active Pharmaceutical Ingredients Reserve, or SAPIR, with critical drug components, ensuring a resilient domestic supply chain for essential medicines. And I do think they might actually link an article to this. Yeah, here we go, the fact sheet. Because I'm kind of curious, what pharmaceuticals? Is it just antibiotics, maybe antivirals, things like that? So we'll go through a little bit of it, and let's see what we got here. So bolstering pharmaceuticals security. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order to fill the Strategic Active Pharmaceutical Ingredients Reserve with critical drug components, ensuring a resilient domestic supply chain for essential medicines. I just read that, and I just read it again. All right, so the order directs the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, ASPR, within the Department of Health and Human Services to develop a list of approximately 26 critical drugs vital to national health and security and ready the SAPIR repository to receive and maintain the active pharmaceutical ingredients used to make these critical drugs. The order charges the ASPR with obtaining a 6-month supply of these critical APIs, with a preference for obtaining domestically manufactured APIs if possible and placing them in the SAPIR. It further instructs the ASPR to update the 2022 list of 86 essential medicines and propose a plan to obtain and store a 6-month API supply for these drugs. ASPR shall further develop a proposal for opening a second SAPIR repository to further enhance pharmaceutical supply chain resilience. So let's see, only 10% of APIs for U.S. prescription drugs are manufactured domestically. Good grief, man. Yeah, vulnerable, very vulnerable. Biden failed to advance domestic production or fill the SAPIR. I didn't even know this thing even existed. Did you even know that we even had a strategic reserve for pharmaceuticals? It's smart. It's obviously smart. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Biden depleted that too, like they depleted the strategic oil reserves. I mean, that actually was plummeted. Probably damn near zero, honestly. So let's see. In 2020, Trump signed an executive order directing his administration to increase domestic procurement of essential medicines. And medical countermeasures and critical inputs, as well as identify supply chain vulnerabilities. And then Trump created an SAPIR to stockpile APIs, laying the foundation for pharmaceutical resilience. And then in May of this year, Trump signed an executive order to remove regulatory barriers and facilitate the restoration of a robust domestic manufacturing base for prescription drugs, including key ingredients and materials necessary to manufacture prescription drugs. And also in May, President Trump signed another executive order implementing most favored nation drug pricing to lower the prices Americans pay, and then later sent letters to 17 pharmaceutical companies to encourage competitive pricing and domestic production. And apparently they're working on it. Apparently the pharmaceutical companies are working on bringing the prices down to where it's fair for Americans because, yeah, we're paying on average like 3 times, in some cases 5 times more for our prescription drugs than other first world countries are paying for. Canada, the UK, Germany, France, all the others, Australia, probably New Zealand, all these other first world countries, they're getting the exact same pills from the exact same manufacturers that we are, and we're paying 3 to 5 times more. It's absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully we'll start to see those prices come down in the near future. I mean, that'd be great for a lot of us. We can use all the financial help we can freaking get. All right, so from Homeland Security, more than 352,000 illegal aliens have been arrested and more than 324,000 have been removed. Finally, we are restocking all of the prisons that Latin America emptied out. They're finally getting back to where they belong, so that's good news for sure. And then Rep. Ron Estes, as chairman of the Ways and Means GOP, I'm assuming it's the committee. Yeah, the committee, Ways and Means Committee. Social Security Subcommittee. I've worked to protect and strengthen Social Security, the 90th anniversary of Social Security with the implementation of the One Big Beautiful Bill will free seniors from unfair taxes on their hard-earned benefits. And this is from Rapid Response 47. Today is the 90th anniversary of Social Security. And thanks to the bill, the vast majority of seniors on Social Security will no longer pay taxes on that income. I didn't even know they were taxing Social Security. Why? Are they already taxing Social Security that we're paying into? They're probably taxing that. It wouldn't surprise me if they were. You know, all of us who are working and we're paying our taxes, we're paying into Social Security. Just like I believe we're paying into Medicare too, even though most of us aren't using it. But I get it. When you get older, it's there if you need it. But anyway, so no tax on Social Security. This is the Senate draft bill. The bill provides a new bonus deduction of $6,000 for seniors age 65 and older, or $12,000 for married seniors beginning this year. This amounts to the largest tax break in American history for our nation's seniors. The new deduction is on top of the standard deduction and the current law additional deduction for seniors. The bill also increases and permanently extends the standard deduction and many other features of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that were otherwise scheduled to expire after this year, resulting in significant ongoing savings for most taxpayers. Under the One Big Beautiful Bill, 51.4 million seniors, 88% of all seniors receiving Social Security income, will pay no tax on their Social Security. It's good news. It's kind of surprising, to say the least, that they even have to pay taxes on Social Security in the first place. That's freaking ridiculous. But anyway, seniors age 65 and over receiving Social Security income, it amounts to 58.5 million beneficiaries, and 100% of beneficiaries are not going to get taxed, I'm assuming. Seniors with exemptions and deductions exceeding taxable Social Security income, under current law, it's 37.2%, and under the One Big Beautiful Bill, it's 51.4 million, not 37.2%, 37.2 million seniors. And then under the new bill, 51.4, which is 88%. So that's good news. Definitely good news. Less taxes. It's always good. All right, so I actually mentioned this just either yesterday or the day before yesterday. I was talking about those semi-submersible vessels that drug smugglers are using, and I was trying to describe what they look like, and it's impossible to describe these things without looking at it. But this is a semi-submersible. That's what they look like. It's only like the top part of the boat, like the very top of it, is on the water line, and the hull or whatever. I mean, I get it. Like all hulls on boats are submerged. But yeah, just by the way, it's a semi-submersible. That's what they call them. And obviously they paint them to look somewhat camouflage. I don't know why they wouldn't have painted it like maybe like a dark blue or something, but whatever. But anyway, a U.S. Coast Guard Pacific Area Tactical Law Enforcement Team, this is on U.S. Southern Command, member strands aboard a vessel suspected of drug smuggling in the Eastern Pacific recently. Last week, U.S. Coast Guard cutter Escanaba's crew offloaded approximately 11,922 pounds of cocaine, worth an estimated $88.2 million at Port Everglades, Florida, that was seized during 3 separate interdictions in the Eastern Pacific. The Coast Guard routinely patrols the Eastern Pacific in support of counter-drug ops. And the photos from the U.S. Coast Guard, naturally. Good news, man. That's a hell of a drug bust. Damn, dude. $88 million. No pun intended, but heads are going to roll. Uh-oh. All right, we're good. So this is from FBI Director Kash Patel. The FBI arrested this individual last night. He has been charged with felony assault on a federal officer. So if you have already heard, this dude, he throws, I think it was a Subway. He throws, it's a sub sandwich. I think it was from Subway, but he throws it at a federal officer and he tries to run away. And then I think they end up tackling him or something. I haven't seen it yet. I only read a post and I saw an image of him throwing a fucking sandwich at federal law enforcement. What a fucking retard. But here, we'll check this out. Oh, there's no sound. Uh-oh. That's all right. All right, did you see that? Threw the sandwich at him. Let's see that one more time. Plink. Holy shit, what an asshole. Now that would be something to sync up Bad Boys to. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna... All right. So we're seeing another take. Just bounces right off him. What a dumbass. You really thought you were gonna get away from him? I mean, he is so far, though, to be fair. Well, I mean, did they really catch him? I mean, they said they did. They said they got him and arrested him. I don't know. It's awful convenient that they just ended the video right there before he was apprehended. I wonder if the dude just really got away. Maybe he got away and they just didn't want to look bad. So they're like, oh, yeah, we totally got the guy. We got him. I don't know why they didn't pop him with a taser right then. All right. Interesting times. I believe that was in Washington, right? Yeah, that was in Washington, D.C. So just another one of those criminals that are running around D.C. acting a fool. All right, so from Secretary Brooke Rollins, God bless Texas. Shout out to Ken Paxton, Texas, for securing a game-changing deal with Kellogg's to stop adding artificial dyes to their cereals, ensuring our kids enjoy the wholesome goodness of grain-based cereals. Kellogg's is the first company to sign a legally binding agreement removing toxic dyes from cereal. More to come. There is no American mom or dad anywhere that would rather their child be fed by a chemist than a great American farmer. Amen. And I believe Ken Paxton, he's the Attorney General of Texas, I think, right? I think he's the AG. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, he is. He's the AG. I only know that just because the whole Democrats leaving Texas and it's going off to the courts and he's involved with that. So there's the letter that you can peruse if you check out Secretary Brooke Rollins' profile. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I mean, she read off there, or she included the gist of it, which is what I just read. So I think we're good. Yeah, so good news. And yeah, Kellogg's, it's nice. Nice they're finally removing it. It kind of makes you wonder, why the hell did you even include it in the first place if you're just, yeah, sure, we'll get rid of it. Yeah, why not? Well, then why the fuck do you even have it in there in the first place? Just so it can look pretty? Yeah. Because kids see it colorful and they like the bright colors. And I mean, I don't know. Hopefully they're going to start removing the red dye from our beef. I got a problem with that. That's kind of messed up that they inject red dye into our beef to make it look more presentable at the meat counter. It's freaking ridiculous. All right, this one comes from Caroline Levitt. Everyone should take 5 minutes to read this incredibly powerful story, an example of how D.C. has been failing law-abiding residents and victims of crime. Thank you to Anna Garatelli for sharing your harrowing experience. So this comes from the Washington Examiner. A man went to prison for assaulting me. D.C. police crime stats show he was never arrested. And this just goes to show that the crime statistics in D.C. are not being adequately reported, which not only did President Trump say that, there's been other high-ranking officials who have been saying the same thing, that D.C., the reason why it appears that their crime is going down is because it's not being accurately reported. Not to mention something that many of us, if not most of us, just learned recently, that if a criminal is under 25 years old, that criminal is charged as a juvenile in Washington, D.C. You can't make this shit up, but they're actually treating them as a juvenile. if they're under 25 years old. I don't know if it might be, I know that progressives, they like to throw out the whole prefrontal cortex undeveloped. Maybe that's what they're throwing out, that this freaking prefrontal cortex nonsense. But anyway, actually, speaking of which, I don't know if I actually made a mention of that. I believe that I might have actually responded to that effect, but maybe not. No, I didn't. I don't know. I was arguing with somebody earlier this morning, and I thought maybe I mentioned it in this post, but no. All right, so anyway, 5 years ago, I was violently attacked and sexually assaulted in broad daylight in Washington, D.C. by a homeless man. He served time in federal prison for what he did to me, but if you look for evidence that the attack happened in the city's crime statistics, you won't find it. The truth of what happened to me and the D.C. government's role in it is as much a public scandal as it is a personal trauma. D.C. police covered up the unspeakable wrong that the stranger did to me. Even though a judge sentenced my attacker to hard time in prison, D.C. police leadership would rather deceive the public and appear less dangerous than list mine and countless other sexual assaults on their website. The extent of crime in D.C. has been debated by the left and right since President Trump announced on Monday that he would take federal action to crack down on problems in the D.C. area. But if the public wants to have an honest conversation about crime in D.C., the MPD will first have to be honest about how prevalent crime is. Without MPD's honesty about the crimes it has chosen to hide from the public-facing stats page, the White House cannot get an accurate picture of how bad the problem actually is and adequately fix it. For me, the story began long before that attack. I was a Washingtonian for 7 years. I was saving up money to buy a condo and planned to spend the next few decades in Washington, the intersection of politics and media. DC's crime problem was something you live with. You took Ubers and Lyfts, told others if you were walking after dark so they knew you were when you were home and knew to be aware of your surroundings, almost to the point of paranoia. On a Saturday morning in 2020, I walked out of my apartment on Capitol Hill to mail a package at a post office several blocks from the U.S. Capitol. I put on my black sweatshirt and black sweatpants and then headed out the door, but I never made it to the post office. Just 1 block from my apartment's building entrance, I was attacked by a large man well over 6 feet tall. He charged at me for a reason I still do not understand. In broad daylight and on well-traveled 2nd Street Northeast next to Union Station, I fought to get away as he sexually assaulted me. If it had not been for others in the vicinity, including a construction worker named Donnie, who heard my screaming and ran to my rescue, I don't know if I would be here today. You know, and that's also a recent problem, namely from somebody like Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny was trying to save a woman from being attacked on a bus, and he was holding that homeless guy, and he got him in a chokehold, and the homeless guy ended up dying somehow. And Daniel Penny was charged with murder. So that's not exactly incentivizing bystander men to come to women's rescue, because if, God forbid, something were to happen while you were rescuing a woman in distress, you're going to go to prison for murder, or at least you're going to be charged with it, and your entire life is going to be turned upside down. There was another instance, and it's not related to a woman in trouble, but there was another story in New York City, I think it was back in 2020, where a guy was getting robbed at gunpoint in a parking garage, carjacked, I think, and he somehow was able to wrestle the gun away from the guy pointing the gun at him, and during the scuffle, the good guy got a hold of the gun, shot the bad guy died, good guy got charged with murder. That happened in New York City. And I'm sure there's many, many examples. Those are just 2 off the top of my head. But it's scary how they're treating these crimes and how people who are the actual victims or people who are trying to actually rescue people who are becoming victims, traumatic victims of crimes, these good guys who come to the rescue are getting charged with crimes. It's fucking crazy. All right, so anyway, despite my background working with federal law enforcement, it was only through my experience as a victim that I learned personally of 2 ways that D.C. police and the courts fail the public. I share those now with the hope that they inform the public and leaders to improve how crime is handled and prevented. My attacker was arrested on the street months later and then charged eventually and pleaded guilty to a sex abuse charge nearly 2 years later. MPD's Crime Cards online statistic page, it omits mentioning it though. Do you know what that communicates to a victim? How invalidating that is? When I asked MPD in 2020 why my incident was not on its crime map, the MPD spokesman said the city only includes first-degree felonies under its crime stats. What the fuck, man? That would mean that for every person robbed, assaulted, or sexually abused in anything less than egregious ways, you have not been counted into the total tally. The pain you suffered was not severe enough, according to MPD standards. So, if you're wondering, is crime in D.C. going down, is it really like the lowest that it's been in 30 years? No. I mean, first off, that stat that they're mentioning, 30 years, that's bullshit anyway. That's only pertaining to just one specific type of crime. I think it's gunshot murders or something like that. I mean, crime was a lot worse than it is now in 2023. It's gone down a little bit, but not by much. But if they're not including first-degree felonies or anything under a first-degree felony, then their crime statistics are all kinds of messed up, and Trump is right. D.C. crime is probably 2 or 3 times worse than what they're reporting. So anyway, in a follow-up email to the MPD this week, an MPD spokesperson stated after a back-and-forth exchange that the map includes some sex abuse charges, but not all of them. In my case, my attacker's crime against me, which landed him in prison, is still not listed. Quote, in an effort to provide more clear information about the most serious sex assaults that are most closely aligned with the public's perception of rape and attempted rape, the most serious sex abuse categories are included in the reports of DC Code Index Violent Crimes. The MPD Crime Cards website states in the bottom right corner at the bottom of a scroll within the page. Let's see. So we still got quite a ways to go. So I'll just go ahead and stop reading there. But this will be linked. Just look up. You can go down in my description, look at Washington Examiner. Click on the link. It'll pull right up. So anyway, because I think I've got 31 or 32 different posts to get through. It was a busy news day, man. There was a lot of stuff happening in the news today. It was a fast-moving day. As Thursdays, they tend to be somewhat of a busy day in the news. So, yeah, man, what a horrible story. And for them to just blow off her experience like it was nothing, to not include that in the statistics. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. How would you feel if that happened to you? Or if you were carjacked at gunpoint or something like that, and they didn't even delete it. It was just not even there to begin with. Like, you just don't matter. I mean, they don't give a shit about their constituents. They don't care about the community. It's like they only want just death and despair and dystopia and just a nightmarish existence. I just cannot believe that people keep voting for these freaking animals, man. Because they don't give a shit about you. Why the hell are you going to vote for them? Makes no sense to me. Anyway, at the White House, make space great again. Secretary Duffy on POTUS's executive order to boost the U.S. space industry. Quote, we just had today the 1,000th private space launch. That took 35 years to get us to 1,000 launches. We think with this executive order, in less than 5 years, we'll get to the next 1,000 launches. That is wild. That reminds me of the movie Gattaca. Have you ever seen Gattaca? I just remember watching that when I was younger, probably a teenager. I think it came out in like 98. And just watching like just rocket launch after rocket launch, it seemed like it was almost like traffic. Like they were, not the movie Traffic, but just like a traffic pattern. It was just like launch after launch. They were just going up into space, living in some colony or whatever the hell they were doing. It just kind of reminds me of that. Are we going to start seeing rockets launching like 3-4 a day just on the regular? That'd be pretty wild. All right, so let's just check this out. How long is this? It's a couple of minutes long, but we'll get the skinny. We'll figure out.
Just had today
Listen
the
what's going on.
1,000th.
Oh my God, that's a little loud. My apologies.
And so that took 35 years to get us to 1,000 launches. We think with this CEO, in less than 5 years, we'll get the next 1,000 launches from the private sector,
Space!
Which is fantastic. By the way, we used to own all those private launches, again, starting with SpaceX. We only have 60% of the launches right now in America.
Really? Well, at least we got the majority still.
Is because of the rules, regulations, and red tape that come around the launch, right? We want to do things.
In case you were wondering, why the hell is Space Force a thing? This is probably one of the many reasons why.
Safely. And so
other countries are launching.
DOT,
we don't know what they're launching.
FAA,
or do we?
And NASA. We have to work as one government. And what was happening was you have regulation from FAA and regulation from NASA and regulation from Commerce.
Oh, my God.
And we
want
to speak with one government, streamline that red tape, reduce costs, and allow all of the launches to happen in this country.
Well, that should make Elon happy.
American companies and foreign companies to be launching.
It's going to finally warm up to Trump again.
Off of our pods and pads.
Is he still pissed off about the beautiful bill?
We're going to streamline that approach. And again, you talk about how important space is. It is critical. And again, we want to drive.
By the way, from what I read, the reason why Elon Musk got all pissed off at Trump about the one big beautiful bill was because he was cutting taxes, but he was doing it at the cost of raising the national debt ceiling. Apparently, in order to cut the taxes, he did reduce government spending to some extent. Plus, Doge did a fantastic job, but the federal government didn't cut nearly enough. Not nearly enough of what Doge uncovered, but apparently in order to make the tax cuts happen, they had to raise the national deficit. And if that's actually true, that frankly pisses me off too, because I want the deficit to go down, not up. As a parent, that's kind of important to me. I don't want my kids and my grandkids to have to deal with all this shit when we're already owing $110,000 for every American man, woman, and child. That's how much each of us owes to the national deficit right now.
Peace. We don't know where other countries are going to be at in space. They could see a strategic military component to space, which we want to
That would be interesting.
The moon. You mentioned the moon.
The moon. Artemis 2. It's happening next year. We're going to fly around the moon.
A lot of people understand this. There's ice. Ice means water, which means we can inhabit the southern pole of the moon. You need an energy source. So some of it can be from solar. But
They found water on the moon. Water ice.
From nuclear. And so we have fast-tracked this approach. We're hoping by the end of this decade, we're going to be able to get that reactor on the moon.
Democrats were, there was a Democrat representative that was talking about this. They're like, we've got this going on and we have this going on and Trump is being a dictator. And now they're talking about putting a nuclear reactor on the moon. Like we really have the money for that. We should be focusing on trying to get our energy up down here on the ground with renewable energy and all that bullshit. And then I had to somewhat correct her and say, dude, they're not building a fucking nuclear power station there. They're not building, this big ass nuclear plant like straight out of The Simpsons or some shit. No, dude, it's going to be small. It's probably going to be delivered in one single payload, maybe two at the most. It's going to be a little bitty nuclear reactor. Did you know that our modern submarines and our modern aircraft carriers, they have nuclear reactors on them? It's probably going to be on a scale similar to that. We even have a nuclear reactor on Mars right now, believe it or not. There's a mobile nuclear reactor moving around on Mars as we speak. It's the newest Mars rover. Which one was that? Was that no, not Opportunity. I can't remember which one it was. Oh hell, that's gonna bother me. But anyway, it's the most recent one that was launched. It's about the size of an SUV, but it's got a nuclear reactor on its back, and that's what's powering the rover. So just because it's a nuclear reactor doesn't mean it's going to be a fucking like $3-4 billion fucking power station. We're not going to be building like giant buildings on the moon for fuck's sake.
At the first part of next year, Maria, Artemis 2, that's our mission to go out and around the moon.
Orbit the moon.
Is going to happen. And then Artemis
just like the
3
Apollo
happen,
missions,
which we're going to land back on
Gemini,
the moon. And,
Mercury.
We're going to stay for 6 days. The longest before that was 3 days.
That's awesome.
And then we'll start the process of building our base on the moon.
Yeah.
That's important because to be
this
on
is
the
real
moon,
life,
what
folks.
we learn on the moon is going to allow us to go to Mars. And what we're
They were
doing
building
at
a
NASA
base on
is,
the moon.
Again,
legit.
They had a whole smorgasbord of...
Because the International Space Station, it ain't going to last forever. Matter of fact, after this is done, I might take a second to see how much longer they expect the space station to be up there for, but it's not going to be much longer. I think it's like 5 years or so, something like that. And what they're planning on doing, NASA, they're planning on basically moving what they're doing on the space station to the moon itself. That's what they want to do by putting this base on the moon. It's going to be kind of like an international space station of sorts. At least that's how I understand it.
Priorities. We explore space. And so we're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to look at what do we do with our next low Earth orbit space station, right? Because the International Space Station has another several years of life before.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now I don't have to look it up.
But all of the climate science and all of the other priorities that the last administration had at NASA, we're going to move aside. And all of the science that we do is going to be directed towards exploration, which is the mission of NASA.
Right.
That's why we have NASA, is to explore, not to do all of these Earth sciences.
Dude, I love space. I absolutely love space. I do not envy anybody who's going to be going to Mars, though. That would be a nightmare. I mean, when I was a kid, that would have been awesome to have been a part of that, but hell no, man. No, taking like 9 months to get there, and then it's going to take like a year and a half to get back. No thanks. It'd still be a pretty cool experience, though. But yeah, man, space travel, good thing. It's not just Mars that we have opportunities to get to. It's not going to be in any of our lifetimes, but we've got Europa that's orbiting around. It's one of the Jupiter moons. I think Callisto is another one that has a lot of water on it. And Enceladus, that orbits Saturn. It's one of Saturn's smaller moons. Enceladus has liquid salt water below the surface to the point where it's actually shooting geysers out into space right now. There's several geysers that are spraying liquid water out into space from Enceladus. It's absolutely crazy. It's the most reflective body in the solar system because a lot of that water that goes up into space obviously condenses into ice and it falls back to the surface and makes it look like a giant snowball. But anyway, that would be an opportunity to explore that as well. to try to find out maybe there's life under there. If there's liquid water, there could be life. So anyway, yeah, it's awesome. A lot of opportunities. Definitely good news. Absolutely love it. The Artemis missions, it's going to be pretty cool. I believe they did say Artemis 2. It's going to orbit the moon. I think it was next year. I think that's what he said. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Any sanctuary jurisdiction that continues to put illegal aliens ahead of American citizens can either come to the table or we'll see your ass in court. Today, the Justice Department delivered demand letters to sanctuary cities, counties, and states, a key step in our strategic effort to eradicate sanctuary policies from California to New York. And this is addressed to Gavin Newsom from the Office of the Attorney General in Washington, D.C., dated yesterday. So, dear Gavin Newsom, the United States has a long history of cooperation with state and local law enforcement agencies, including for immigration enforcement. Such cooperation is vital to enforce federal law and protect national security. Recognizing that need, Congress has codified the duty of states and local governments to cooperate in immigration enforcement efforts. For too long, so-called sanctuary jurisdiction policies have undermined this necessary cooperation and obstructed federal immigration enforcement. I guarantee you at this point, that's where Gavin stops reading. Given aliens cover to perpetrate crimes in our communities and evade the immigration consequences that federal law requires. Under President Trump's leadership, full cooperation by state and local governments in immigration enforcement efforts is a top priority. To ensure such cooperation, the President has directed the Attorney General of the United States, in coordination with the Secretary of Homeland Security, to identify sanctuary jurisdictions and notify them of their unlawful sanctuary status and potential violations of federal law. Additionally, the President directed federal agencies to identify and evaluate their statutory authority to issue grants, contracts, and federal funds to determine where immigration-related terms and conditions may be added to combat sanctuary policies that violate federal immigration law. See Executive Order Protecting American Communities from Criminal Aliens. As contemplated by the Executive Order, designation as a sanctuary jurisdiction may result in additional consequences and further agency actions as permitted by law. As the chief law enforcement officer in the U.S., I am committed to identifying state and local laws, policies, and practices that facilitate violations of federal immigration laws, policies, or practices, federal immigration laws, or impede lawful federal immigration operations, and taking legal action to challenge such laws, policies, or practices. Individuals operating under the color of law, using their official position to obstruct federal immigration enforcement efforts and facilitating or inducing illegal immigration may be subject to criminal charges. As such, I have instructed that all litigating components of the department and each U.S. Attorney's Office shall investigate incidents involving any such potential unlawful conduct and shall, where supported by the evidence, prosecute violations of federal laws such as, they cut it off. Why didn't she include a second page? What the hell? I was on a roll, man. All right. Well, that's that. So the gist of it, letters are being sent out to all the sanctuary cities, the states, and the counties, urging them to comply. I'm sure they're going to do nothing with this letter except maybe wipe their ass with it. I'm sure that's probably what's going to, maybe not literally, but I mean, come on, man, they're Democrats. Wouldn't surprise me if they not only did that, but they mailed it back to them. Wouldn't surprise me. All right, and I just lost my place, damn it. Every once in a while I do that. I actually screw up and I click back too many times. That's all right. I don't think we're too far down here. I don't think we're way too far down. Find out where I left off. There we go. All right, so that is that. Oh, no, hold on. We did that one. Did that one. Here we go. All right, so AG Pamela Bondi from justice.gov. So maybe the entire letter is here. So I'm not going to read all of this because I just read that letter. But sanctuary jurisdiction characteristics include public declarations, the laws and the ordinances, executive directives. Let's see. All right, so restrictions on information sharing. Funding restrictions, that's going to be interesting. Cities, states, or counties that prohibit local funds or resources from being used to support federal immigration enforcement efforts. So non-cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, limits on ICE detainers, jail access restrictions, immigrant community affairs offices, federal benefit programs. And the states that they're looking at are California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, D.C., Illinois, Minnesota, Nevada, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. And then there's 4 counties: Baltimore, Maryland, Cook County, Illinois, San Diego County, California, and San Francisco County, California. I thought San Diego County was Republican for the longest time. I thought I read that somewhere, that San Diego was just one of those really weird states or cities where the local government is mostly Republican. I don't know. Maybe I read wrong. The cities: Albuquerque, Berkeley, Boston, Chicago, Denver, East Lansing, Hoboken. All right. Hoboken, New Jersey, LA, New Orleans, New York City, Newark, Patterson, Philadelphia, Portland, Rochester, Seattle, and San Francisco. So they are all getting letters from the AG, and she's threatening them with court. I think that's something they should have done a really long time ago. I'm sure the sanctuary city nonsense has probably been around since probably before 2016, but I'm sure it's not nearly the degree that they've turned it into. So we'll have to see if there's going to be any movement on that. I'm sure the Democrats are just going to stonewall as long as they possibly can, but it's good that they're trying to get ahead of it right now while Trump is still relatively early in his administration still, because you know how the midterms work. By this time next year, nobody's going to want to touch anything because everybody's worried about getting reelected. At least those who are up for reelection, everybody in the House, and then certain select senators and people down at the local level. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year next year because just the Democrats, man, they've doubled down even worse than ever before on literally everything. And their approval rating, even among Democrats, I just read this yesterday on here. The approval number among Democrat voters, their support for their favorability of the Democrat Party is down to 77%. And only a couple of years ago, it was like over like 90%. And it's all the way down to 77% right now, which is at a historic low, if I'm not mistaken. And the Republican support among Republican voters was at like 93, 94%. It's really high. So, all right, so let's move on here to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. President Trump's tariffs are exceeding expectations and putting America first. Revenue is on track to soar past $300 billion, driving growth, strengthening our economy, and helping drive down the deficit to GDP ratio. It's about damn time. It's not there. Still has quite a ways to go before we get down to deficit to GDP.
The tariff plan brought in more than $28 billion in July, a fresh monthly
I think it's like 120%, by the way.
Tariffs are becoming the third largest source of income for government. And the last time you were with me, you told me that you would expect $300 billion in tariff revenue, but I think you are increasing that expectation right now.
We're over.
I am. So
$28 billion in July. Let's go.
Going to be a very good test. I've been saying that I think we can take in $300 billion, and as the Treasury Secretary, I like to be conservative, but there's a chance that I'm going to substantially upgrade that number. And Maria, the way to think about it for your viewers is every $300 billion is 1% of GDP. We were left with a mess. The deficit to GDP, 6.5, 6.7%, highest when we were not in a recession, not at war. So just the tariff revenue,
it's only getting worse.
That down into the fives, which fits with this administration's plan of getting the deficit to GDP back into the threes, the long-term average, before President Trump leaves office.
Yeah, and we see how hard Trump and the Trump administration, how hard they're working to bring down government spending, trying to downsize as much as they possibly can. Of course, they're getting blocked by the Democrats on every possible front, but they are trying as hard as they can, to the point where he even started Doge with Elon Musk to try to find the fraud, waste, and abuse. They're doing anything and everything they can, and with all this work that they've done so far, it's been but a drop in a bucket. And if it's not going to get done under Trump, I don't see anybody potentially who could run for the president, at least, who could actually find any way to get our government to the point where we're going to finally be at flatline to where our budget meets the amount of tax money that they're taking in. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's absolutely ridiculous, but if it's not going to happen under the Trump administration, I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetimes. So basically, that just means it's just a ticking time bomb, literally, that we're going to default on the dollar at some point. Anyway, I heard from somebody that Scott Bessent is a billionaire. Is that true? Is Scott Bessent a billionaire? I don't know anything about him other than that he's the Treasury Secretary. Let's see. Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent? Let me just check. See, it fucking disappeared again. What the hell? is not definitively a billionaire. His net worth is between 5 and 700 million. Our estimate. How did he earn his fortune? Primarily through his career in hedge fund management. Strategic investments. Okay. Breakdown of how he built his wealth. All right. Oh, he bet against the British pound back in 92. It earned $1 billion for the fund. Holy shit. What the hell did he know that nobody else knew? All right, whatever. I'm not going to get all hung up on that. It was just an offhand curiosity. All right, so let's move on here to Rapid Response 47. POTUS signs a proclamation commemorating the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act. Here is the text of the proclamation, which I will read for you. On August 14th, 1935, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed into law the Social Security Act, a monumental legislative achievement that protects our seniors, uplifts our citizens, and sustains the livelihoods of hardworking Americans who devoted their professions to bettering our country. On the 90th anniversary of the establishment of this historic program, I recommit to always defending Social Security, rewarding the men and women who make our country prosperous, and taking care of our own workers, families, seniors, and citizens first. I mean, look, it's supplementary income. Social Security, there is absolutely no way, especially in this economy, that you could survive on that alone. All I'm saying, and I think probably most people who hear this would probably agree with me there. Anyway, to this day, Social Security is rooted in a simple promise. Those who gave their careers to building our nation will always have the support, stability, and relief they deserve. Thanks to my administration's efforts, Social Security now stands stronger and more resilient than ever before. I mean, I don't know about all that, but okay. Following the passage of this historic One Big Beautiful Bill last month, the vast majority of seniors who receive Social Security will pay zero tax on their Social Security benefits, the largest tax break for seniors in the history of our country. To further strengthen Social Security, my administration is aggressively rooting out all the fraud, waste, and abuse that rob our federal programs of resources, including stopping payments to the deceased and eliminating benefits for those who do not legally qualify. Good, thank God. These measures will save American taxpayers billions of dollars every year and ensure that future generations receive the benefits they spent their lives paying into. Well, after they recalculate everything, the amount of money that they've saved, maybe they can actually raise the amount of Social Security that seniors can get, hopefully. At the same time, I'm making the Social Security Administration more efficient, more responsive, and more effective than ever before, reducing wait times and delivering the payments the American people worked hard to earn. I am also proudly restoring stronger border security policies to ensure that Medicare and Social Security are preserved for the citizens who paid into them and not abused by illegal aliens who have no right to be here. On this 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, we recognize the countless contributions of every American senior who has invested their time, talent, and resources into our nation's future. On this momentous milestone, we recommit to strengthening our retirement system, protecting programs like Social Security and Medicare against fraud and abuse, and ensuring that every future generation of American citizens has the income security they need and earned. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim August 14th, 2025 as the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 14th day of August in the year of our Lord 2025 and of the independence of the United States of America, the 250th. Donald J. Trump. All right, there you go. Now, I'm assuming he's just going to sign it. I don't think that it's going to all be read in just 2 minutes, so we'll give this a look.
Proclamation, both commemorating the 90th anniversary.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will read it all.
Signing of the Social Security Act, and also the incredible accomplishments of your administration, fixing and promoting and safeguarding Social Security, and it also obviously
no auto pen
as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. A vast majority of our senior citizens are no longer paying taxes on their Social Security benefits.
I can't believe how retarded that is. That's so fucking stupid.
For the American people.
That's a big factor.
I honestly did not know that.
That's great. I think they're very happy about it, too. They're very happy about a lot of things. Good job, Frank.
Thank you, sir.
Look, how much money is that saving? Hold on, real quick. I'm going to look that up. How much money is that saving each senior? Let's see. Seniors. I'm going to copy it in case it fucking disappears on me. Fuck, man. Grok. What the hell? It's not on my end. It's something screwed up with X for whatever reason. Okay, yeah, I actually did read that. Okay. It provides a significant tax break through a new $6,000 deduction per individual for married couples effective. But see, that... All right, hold on. That doesn't mean they're getting an extra $6,000, does it? The new $6,000 deduction has no... let's see. Savings 0. No changes. They were already exempt. Yeah. About 4,500 Social Security benefits might be taxable. All right, whatever. No, I'm not interested in all that. All right. Whoops. Let me just do payments. All right, it's telling me the same thing. So I'm assuming it does not directly increase Social Security benefit payments, but introduces a $6,000 deduction for individuals aged 65 and older. Okay, reducing taxable income. Okay, all right. Well, so I guess that just means that, income tax in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. I don't know anything about Social Security other than that I've been paying into it my entire adult life. So it doesn't quite compute with me, because it sounds to me like the average senior citizen is getting, I don't know what, like $1,300 a month in Social Security. I know some get like less than $1,000 or whatever, but like, let's say like $1,200 a month. On average, they're getting $1,200 a month. Now that they're not taxing the Social Security, are they getting like $1,250 a month now or $1,300 a month now? It doesn't sound like it's working out like that at all. It doesn't sound like that it's increasing the amount of money that they're getting. It's just reducing by $6,000 the amount of money that they're being taxed for those who are on Social Security. That's what it sounds like to me. All right, anyway.
And Frank has brought with him some of the most talented people in business, and they were making a lot of money, but they made a lot of money. They had money they didn't have to make anymore, and they just want to do this. They want to have our country become strong and good, and that's what's happening, and we're doing that in a lot of locations, a lot of areas. You deal with some of the people that are commissioners, that are secretaries of state, secretaries of treasury and commerce, people that were really, really successful people, and they gave all that up to make a very small amount of money. They don't even consider it a fraction. You say 1%, less than 1%. That's pretty good. That's a big pay cut. But Frank is one of the most outstanding.
Just a little.
His career has been incredible, and you just have to look at what happened at J.P. Morgan Chase and look at what happened with First Data. First Data was the biggest company of its kind in the world, but it was not going to make it. He went in, and it became a tremendous success. And merged into another company, and he became the head of that company. Then he said, "Let me go save Social Security," because as big as that stuff is, it's small potatoes compared in terms of numbers, right? In terms of numbers, these are big numbers. Government numbers are big numbers. So I want to thank everybody for being here, but I'm really proud of you, Frank. And here's your proclamation, and let's take a look at what that looks like. Signed by the human hand.
All right. No auto pen.
For a change. That's good, right?
Oh, all right. There you have it. Now, I know the whole Social Security system, I get that it's convoluted. Maybe I should do kind of a deep dive on that just on my own time to find out, because I've heard that money is being borrowed against it. Certain entities of the government have been sort of taking Social Security money out the back door, because I keep hearing that by the time that millennials are at senior age, there's going to be no money there for them to receive any Social Security. So they're obviously doing something with it, and it's clearly not good, whatever it is that they're doing with it. So I don't know if they're doing it like unions have done in the past, where they're taking the funds that they accumulate for pensions, like pension funds, and they're using the money for other reasons, essentially investing or gambling, really. I mean, if they're dumping it on Wall Street or something like that, I mean, that's not good. But yeah, I mean, it should be absolutely illegal to touch any of that money, because it's, as long as our population keeps increasing, it's an impossible system to fail, because more people are being born than there are elderly people. So the amount of money just keeps accumulating. So I don't see how it could fail. And I don't think that it could if the money's not touched. But yeah, apparently greedy bastards are touching it. All right, so anyway, U.S. Department of Education. The Education Department is investigating Topeka, Shawnee, Olathe, and Kansas City public school districts for allegedly hiding a student's gender transition from that child's parents and allowing students to use intimate facilities based on gender identity, possibly violating FERPA and Title IX. And in California, this is in the law that parents will not know if their child is transitioning in school or if they are identifying their child of the opposite sex of which they were assigned at birth. The parents are not legally entitled to know that the schools are doing that to their children. That's in California law now. Absolutely unbelievable, but it is. So anyway, here, let's check this out from ed.gov. So the press release for this major issue that's happening, because yeah, that's obviously violating federal law if this is what they're actually doing, which sounds like they are. Today, the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, the OCR, and Student Privacy Policy Office initiated investigations into Topeka Public Schools, Shawnee Public Schools, Olathe, and Kansas City Public Schools. The investigations come after a complaint filed with the department by the Defense of Freedom Institute alleged that the district's policies and practices permit students to participate in sports and access intimate facilities based on gender identity rather than biological sex. That's interesting. It's flyover country, man. It's red country. All right, but anyway, these policies also prevent school officials from disclosing a student's transgender status. Makes me wonder if during the COVID era, when there were tons of people leaving California looking for a place more affordable, things like that, there were a lot of certain activist types that relocated to other parts of the country. Makes me wonder if some of them relocated to this area and started doing all this nonsense. But anyway, so the policies also prevented school officials from disclosing the student's transgender status to their parents without the student's consent. These policies and practices potentially violate Title IX of the Educational Amendments of 1972 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach also sent a letter to U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, highlighting and expressing concern about the district's potential Title IX and FERPA violations. The Kansas district's alleged behavior of allowing gender identity to run amok in their schools is an affront not only to the law, but to the sound judgment we expect from our educational leaders. School personnel should not confuse and unsettle young girls by forcing them to share sex-separated sports in intimate facilities with boys, nor should school personnel abuse their position of authority by hiding sensitive information pertaining to a child's health and well-being from that child's parents. No shit. And this really irritates the hell out of me because as a parent, it's infuriating that they're doing this to your own children, and there's really not much you can do about it because unless you're going to homeschool them, which I would highly recommend at this point. I think everybody should be homeschooling their kids at this point for this exact reason. This is happening in fucking Kansas, man. That's really all you can really do. I mean, other than homeschool, I mean, they got to go to school. That's the law. They have to go to school. So, yeah, man, homeschool your kids, man. Keep them away from this. From day one, the Trump administration promised to protect students and parents by restoring Title IX and parental rights laws to the fullest extent of the law. My offices will vigorously investigate these matters to ensure these practices come to an end. And I'm assuming there's probably there's a bit left here. So I'll just get through this last paragraph and then I'll leave the background. For your viewing pleasure, if you want to check this out, it's in the description, ed.gov. And you click on the link down below. Title IX was enacted to protect the rights of girls to equal educational opportunity and safety. Kansas had to sue and defeat the Biden administration in federal court to stop them from dismantling Title IX, said Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach. I am grateful that we now have a federal government that takes Title IX seriously and will ensure that school districts follow the law. Wasn't it Democrats that passed Title IX? Isn't that all wrapped up into the whole Civil Rights Act or something like that? Who knows, man? It's absolutely ridiculous that our society's come to this. All right, so let's head down to the next one. Down to Homeland Security. Once again, here's just one more. I decided to include this because we got a couple of images to check out. So unprecedented. 10 hours ago, Data shows 1.6 million illegals are out of our country in the last 200 days since Secretary Noem was sworn in and the president took office. Promises made, promises kept. So this is the estimated size of the illegal immigrant population in the United States, which grew rapidly from 2021 to January of 25, but has since fallen dramatically. So that's the estimate. The estimate is 15.8. I've heard 20, I've heard 40, I've heard 50 million. I'm sure there's probably no real way of knowing, because you remember during Biden's entire administration, they kept showing footage of the border, and there were thousands of people in each caravan that were just pouring across the border, and the Border Patrol agents, they were just standing there, not allowed to do anything. They were just letting them all just pour right on in. Plus, the Biden administration was flying them in, too. That was really appalling. They were using our airports in the cover of darkness in the middle of the night. They were flying in packed flights of illegal immigrants. Well, they called them asylum seekers, that they were flying into the airports, and they were just letting them out. Here you go. Here's America. You're out in the middle of America. And they were doing that with airports all over the country. It wasn't just the coastal cities or just the border cities or towns or whatever. It was all over the place. All right, so there's that graph. I'm not sure what the other one was, the headline, right? Center for Immigration Studies, overall foreign-born population down 2.2 million January to July. Illegal population estimated to have fallen 1.6 million this year. So there you have it. Homeland Security. All right, this one comes from Economic Research Service. SNAP participation varied across states in fiscal year 2024. Learn more in this chart of note. Check this out. So it's by state, the percent of population receiving SNAP benefits in fiscal year 2024. And kind of surprising to me that, there's Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Oregon are among the heaviest, and of course, DC. But yeah, I don't know, like Alabama's a little bit heavier. I'm surprised Arkansas, to be honest. I'm surprised Arkansas was less than 8. I figured they would have been a lot higher, but good for Arkansas. That's good. And in my state, looks like 12 to 13.9% are receiving SNAP benefits. So yeah, man, more than 15.9. I'd be curious to know how much more than 15.9. I bet Oregon probably leads the whole country. That wouldn't surprise me. All right. So there you have it. I know that I believe they're limiting it to 2 years. I believe that's what the Trump administration is doing, that you can only receive food stamps and welfare benefits for up to 2 years before you get cut off. And if you have no children under the age of 14, then you have to work a minimum of 20 hours a week in order to be eligible for your benefits. So there you have it. And I'm not sure if that actually went into effect yet. I believe it did. I think it went into effect. All right, so this is from the White House, CNN. The number of ICE flights is skyrocketing. And of course, they probably had a much less exciting tone to their voice. Probably very whiny. Ew, it's skyrocketing. Why are they doing this to these poor, undocumented citizens? All right, so anyway, number of flights, 250 flights is represented by the thick purple. So there's a ton that are heading to, what is that, El Salvador, it looks like? That is a lot of flights, man. Yeah, almost the gateway to South America. But yeah, they're sending them. Like heading to Brazil, not as many. It looked like, about 50 flights headed to Brazil. And then it looks like maybe 10 all around the world. Looks like they're even landing out in Russia. Or, no, that's China. Yeah, that's down in the Asian countries. So literally all over the world, man. The illegal immigrants didn't just come from Mexico. They didn't just come from Central America. They didn't only just come from South America or the Caribbean. They came from all the fuck over the place. Came from everywhere. How many African countries? 1, 2, 3, probably 12 at that point. 15, 17 different African countries. 18 possibly. That's just one continent. So, yep, destinations for deportation flights, January 20th to July 31st. And again, that was from the White House, the official White House account. Oh, damn it. I did it again. One sec. All right, here we are. No harm, no foul. All right, so this comes from Attorney General James Uthmeyer, the 39th Attorney General for the Free State of Florida. Dude, I should know this. This is my state. How the fuck do I not? I know Attorney General Pamela Bondi. She was our Attorney General from 2011 till 2019. I'm actually surprised at myself that I actually didn't know that, but whatever. Anyway, due to the danger posed to the public, Florida is taking 7-OH off the shelves immediately. This dangerous substance is being marketed to teens and young adults and has a high potential for abuse and death. We are grateful for President Trump and Dr. Macri from the FDA for sounding the alarm, giving my office the foundation to protect Floridians. However, to be fair, just what little microscopic amount of pushback that I'll give on this, I'm pretty sure that they're not selling this stuff to anybody who's under 21 years old. At least they sure shit better not be. They shouldn't be selling it at all. I mean, what they're doing, they're taking, it's called kratom, and it's from Indonesia primarily, but it's this giant tree. Like they get like up to 100 feet tall, I think, and they grow in the jungles. They grow in the rainforest. These big ass trees, and they pluck the leaves, and then they dry the leaves out, and then they grind it down to like a fine ground like powder, and then they package it, and then they ship it, and that's that. That's the natural form of kratom. Well, what they're doing is they're taking a very trace amount of this chemical compound that's naturally in those leaves, and they're synthesizing it and making it hundreds and hundreds of times more powerful than it naturally is in the leaf itself. And it's called 7-OH. And it's called hydroxymetragenine. And that's about as far as my knowledge goes on it. But yeah, from what he says that they're marketing it to teens, it's by the way that the products look. They're selling gummies that are cotton candy flavored, or they're selling gummy bears, or they're selling these little shots that look like 5-hour energy shots, and they're all brightly colored, and they're just attractive to the eyes because all of these products are very brightly colored. So that's why they say that it appears that they just say they're straight up marketing it to teens, even though I highly doubt that they're actually selling them to teenagers. I would at least imagine that they're not. I'm pretty sure that you have to be 21 to buy kratom, at least in the state of Florida. But yeah, anyway, so that's happening right now. Made illegal immediately. It's a Schedule 1 controlled substance now in the state of Florida. That was as of yesterday on Wednesday. So anybody selling this stuff, you can't buy it unless you're committing a felony by possession or sale, distribution, trafficking, whatever the hell they're going to charge you with of a Schedule 1 controlled substance. So it's up there with all the other Schedule 1 substances now. All right. And if you're not very knowledgeable on that, the DEA, they're looking at scheduling the same thing, the 7-OH product or substance or what have you. They're going to federally schedule it, so it's going to be banned across the U.S. But Florida wanted to get ahead of it, and he banned it immediately in our state. And Florida is the first state to do that, and I'm sure other states are to follow, if not an outright national ban, which the DEA is working on doing right now. So we'll probably hear about that any day now. All right, so from FBI Director Kash Patel, overnight in D.C., the FBI and our partners made 45 arrests, not 20, 45 arrests, 29 immigration-related, and 16 tied to the violent crime surge, and 3 firearm seizures. And yeah, that was just last night. The charges include assault on a federal officer. Oh, lovely. Possession of child sex abuse material. What the fuck, man? D.C., dude. Pizzagate. What the hell? All right. Illegal firearms and also drug trafficking and fugitive apprehensions and Subway sandwich assault. All right. Yeah, well, that's true. They did. They assaulted an officer, which we already saw, with a Subway sandwich, that bastard. Your FBI will make D.C. safe again. Amen. God willing, man. All right, so this one comes from Christopher Landau. The criminal gangs that have been destabilizing Haiti and terrorizing its people are hereby given notice. The United States government will use every tool at its disposal to crush you. On Tuesday, a U.S. federal court unsealed an indictment charging notorious gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier. A few weeks before that, we arrested Barbecue's co-conspirator, Bazile Richardson. We've also yanked visas and green cards for these criminals and their supporters in Haiti and in the U.S. When we aim at a foreign terrorist organization, we don't miss. So they're cracking down on Haiti. That's good news. I mean, it's absolute chaos down there from what I've been hearing. So there's a $5 million reward. Help bring Jimmy Cherizier, a.k.a. Barbecue, to justice. His reign of terror and mass violence against Haiti must end. And that can be found at state.gov. I'm not sure if they do. They link it. I'm assuming it's probably the wanted image. Oh, no. Yeah, they got a whole article on it. He's the leader of V. Ensemble, which was designated by the Secretary of State on May 2nd as a foreign terrorist organization. Yeah, so they're not messing around, man. They're going after him. Will boots be put on the ground to go after him? Probably not, but you never know. A lot of that SEAL Team 6 stuff, isn't that most of it pretty much top secret? You never know. They might send in the cavalry and scoop him up. But if you have any knowledge of his whereabouts, you can become $5 million richer if you can get him into the hands of the authorities. Yep, another win. As long as they get him, $5 million. All right, so energy and commerce Democrats, all to help the rich get richer. And that's in response to Barack Obama. Since we passed the Affordable Care Act, Republicans have tried over and over to repeal it. And over they failed, in part because millions of people now depend on the ACA for quality, affordable healthcare. Affordable? Is that a fucking joke? Now Republicans are trying something different, quietly weakening the law and hoping you won't notice. We can't let them. Look, I challenge you to do something. Go to healthcare.gov and plug in your information. I don't know when open enrollment opens. It might actually be any time during the year. But go and do an enrollment. You don't have to fully enroll. Just put in all of your information, and it will calculate how much money that it's going to cost you per month to get Obamacare. I did it. It was a few years ago, so I can only imagine how expensive it is now. But I did it a few years ago, and I did their platinum insurance plan because it was on the exact same level as my insurance that I had before Obamacare back in whenever it was, 2012, 2011, or whenever. Back when my health insurance was $250 for an inpatient visit, flat, that's it. $100 for the ER, $50 immediate care, $35 for the specialist, and $20 for a PCP. No deductibles beyond that. No copays beyond what that was. And anyway, I plugged that in, the same exact plan that I had before, and it was $1,500 a month. And I was in my mid-30s at the time. And no pre-existing conditions, perfectly healthy and fine, $1,500. Now, do you call that affordable? I don't. All's I'm saying. So anyway, it's up to all of us to vote our leaders in every election who will make our healthcare system better, not undermine it. Call your member of Congress today and hold them accountable. Always the call of action with the Democrats. Why are you still involved in politics? No one is interested in your opinion. You've done enough to harm us. Why do you call it that instead of Obamacare? Yeah, good point. Because he doesn't want his name tied to it. Because he knows how destructive it is. Obamacare fucked up our insurance company, our entire healthcare insurance industry to an insane degree, man. Look, if you're old enough to remember, we used to have pretty decent healthcare. Compared to today, our healthcare was amazing back before Obamacare. In comparison, look, people complained about it back then. Don't get me wrong. It was still expensive back then, but it's nothing like it is today. Anyway, you can't do much from a prison cell. Yeah, that'll be the day, but let's hope so. I mean, look, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, she's coming after him. She's coming after all of them. And sounds like Pamela Bondi, sounds like she's going to go through with it. At least we can only hope. TikTok Spygate. Never has a president left office to collude with others to impede the next sitting president of the United States of America until Obama. Damn straight. Arrest him. There's no we, there's you, an ex-president, an unelected pundit, and private citizen, you elitist cabal, the people that pay you, and then there's us, and we want none of you. Well, private citizen, some people might push back against that. What was the country? Kenya? Is that where people were saying that he was actually born in and not Hawaii? Anyway, when Obama was promoting his healthcare to fix back in 2008, 2009, he promised it would result in three things: reduce costs, healthcare for all, and improve care. Two of the three have worsened since, and the third, millions are still without healthcare coverage. That's true. That's why every Democrat, when running for office, promises to improve our healthcare system. Fool me once. Amen. Oh, look at this. You brought receipts. Health expenditures from 1960 to 2022 on hospitals, physicians, and clinics, retail prescription drugs by all sources. It doesn't say like CDC. It doesn't exactly say where it's from, does it? I don't see. But anyway, I'll take it for what it is. But hospitals gone up insane. 1.4 trillion. Was that by 2020 or 2022, right? Yep, 1.4 trillion. Physicians at clinics, it's up to damn near $1 trillion. And retail prescription drugs is around the $400 billion mark. Absolutely crazy. And I'm assuming that's on an annual basis. I'm sure it is. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, so let's head down to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons explains ICE's role in making the nation's capital safe again. Let's have a listen to this. I think it's audio only, so let's check this out.
What is ICE's role in this new Washington, D.C. Law enforcement plan?
So we've joined partners with our other federal agencies to make sure that we're making D.C. beautiful and safe again, as the president wants. Secretary Noem has us out there working our criminal illegal alien mission. We're looking at everything in the full ICE portfolio, as well as worksite, human trafficking, just illegal aliens being released from all the jurisdictions, especially D.C., where the Metropolitan Police Department doesn't work with ICE. But we're also teaming up with the FBI, DEA, and ATF to assist them in criminal warrants all over the city. So
criminal warrants.
A great effort right now that the president's doing.
All right, there you go. I'm not sure if you really gave us much more than we already knew. But there you have it. It was also on WIBC during the same conversation that we heard a little bit ago. All right, the White House. Let me zoom back in. Reporting for duty, making D.C. safe again. Show a couple of pictures. There you go, some MPs. Getting ready to crack down on D.C. crime. Gotta love it. I would love to have one of those Hummers, man. That'd be awesome. They auction those things. They do. And they're actually at a pretty decent price. You can get one of those for like $10K, $15K. They're not all running, but yeah, you can actually get like a full-on freaking Humvee, man. Straight from the U.S. military. All right, so Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat. If Senate GOP cared... Or wait, should I do this one first? No, I'll just go with this one. If Senate GOP cared about public safety in D.C., they'd tell House Republicans to pass our bill to restore the $1 billion they cut from D.C.'s budget and let D.C. hire more police officers. Oh, my God. They don't give a damn about people in D.C. They're just carrying water for their dear leader in the White House. Dude, Washington, D.C. has 3,500 police officers. You think that's enough? It's a fucking army. You have 3,500. It's not a question of the numbers. That's not the problem. Problem isn't the number of officers, it's the fucking policies. It's the politics, it's the leaders. The people who are in charge of DC who are the problem. Not the rank and file cops, not the number of cops. It has everything to do with the policies that they've enacted and that they're carrying out, which is doing absolutely fucking nothing. Not to mention, if they're under 25 years old, they're being charged as a juvenile. That is insane. So, Senate Republicans, President Trump has taken necessary and lawful action to keep Americans safe. Democrats like Chris Van Hollen, of course, that's why he replied to it, of course, oppose this. And he absolutely does. Oh, it looks like they actually replied to one of his posts, didn't they? Yeah, here we go. They replied to this one from Chris Van Hollen. What Trump is doing in D.C. isn't about law and order. If he cared about that, he wouldn't have gutted D.C.'s ability to fund its own police force. Look, dude, y'all have had how many years? Many, many years to do so. This is about Trump playing king at the expense of D.C.'s 700,000 residents. The American people must stand against this abuse of power. Should we give it a listen? MSNBC? All right, let me crank up the volume a little bit. All right, this ought to be fun.
Senator, thanks for being here. We have noted that violent crime is significantly down in D.C. So do you think this is really about law and order?
Crank up that propaganda.
Anna, this is not about law and order. Way back on January 6th.
It's about the dictator. Oh, my God. He went straight for January 6th right off the bat. This is about January 6th. And like the only time the Republicans ever in the history of Republicans in the last century have ever staged a protest that got violent. Yeah, because they were incited by the fucking feds.
Metropolitan DC
Come on now, dude. Wake up. Read a fucking book.
Police were being bludgeoned by rioters and insurrectionists.
They were being horrifically bludgeoned.
For President Trump to...
Was that before or after they were firing tear gas directly at Trump supporters that were standing there and not jumping fences or doing anything, peacefully protesting, standing out in front of the Capitol, until they started firing tear gas canisters at the faces of the protesters? Maybe that's kind of what helped set them off a little bit.
As you said, we're seeing a 30-year low in terms of crime in D.C.
Fake news.
This year, crime's been further down.
Oh, and over that,
you can
fake
always
news.
do better, which is why if Donald Trump actually wanted to help, he would release the $1 billion of D.C. taxpayer money.
All about bloody fucking money. All about money. And what are you going to do with that $1 billion? We're going to hire more officers because 3,500 cops aren't enough. Look, how many did they say? 700,000 residents? Hold on, let's just do a little math here real quick. So, 700,000. So that's one police officer for every 200 citizens. Let me see if I can get a decent number out of this. It disappeared again, but that's okay, because I'm on top of that. Fucking grok. Trying to irritate me. Major cities, there are about 2.2 to 2.4 police officers per 1,000 people. All right? So let's just ask, or here it is. So, or roughly 417 to 455 people per police officer. All right? You getting that? And this is from 23 different web pages. Look, Grok sourced this from, let's see, 24/7 Wall Street, citydata.com, ucr.fbi.gov, governing.com, defundpolice.org, that's funny, BJS, ojp.gov, ourworldinData.org, imca.org, policepathfinder.com. Anyway, it goes on and on, .gov, .us, .gov. So anyway, it got it from reliable sources for the most part. And in DC, there's one cop for every 200 people. But in U.S. cities, it averages, let's say, 417. Let's take the lower number. 417 people per cop. D.C., they've got twice the number of police on average for their population as opposed to all the other major cities. Again, it's on average. But you think they got enough cops? I don't know. I think they kind of sort of do.
It's being withheld by Republicans.
They don't need the money.
Congress, so D.C. could hire more police and make further improvements.
But wait a minute. I thought Democrats were all about defunding the police. I thought we were supposed to get rid of the police and replace them with the community service officers, with the social workers. I thought that's what we're supposed to do. Aren't we supposed to get tight with the community and just try to de-escalate these violent situations? Why are you calling for more cops all of a sudden? What about hashtag defund the police? What's going on with that? I don't really understand that. Doesn't seem to make sense to me.
What do you think it's really about?
It's because they're full of shit.
This is about the president playing king, trying to be the authoritarian leader.
No, it's about your greedy ass and fucking money.
Opening in the law here. This is why, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton and I have been working to pass legislation to allow the District of Columbia mayor to do what other leaders of states.
Yeah, to run roughshod over the innocent civilians of the city and let these fucking criminals do whatever the hell they want.
Which is to control the nationalization of the Guard. And the president has this very...
Look, if you want more cops in D.C., you got federal agents all over the place right now. You got the DEA out there patrolling. You've got the FBI. I'm sure the ATF is out there too. You've got the Marshal Service. Probably even fucking Secret Service is probably working overtime just patrolling the streets at this point. You got federal agents all over the place on top of the 3,500 cops that are already in the city. So you want more cops? You got it. What the hell are you complaining about? And 800 National Guard members.
Right now to federalize the D.C. police. So this is all about him showing that he can use his power and his muscle to take over D.C. instead of allowing the people of D.C. to govern themselves.
It's all about Democrats doing a shitty job at what they do. It's nothing new. And it's the same thing with Chicago and New York, LA, and all those other fucking cities that are run by Democrats. All right, will the Senate be confirming Donald Trump's new choice to head the BLS? E.J. Antony, since you're worried about violent crime, like what happened during the insurrection on January 6th, where Donald Trump didn't give a damn to use the National Guard, which he has shown he could have done. Yeah, whatever. Now, I believe that was up to Nancy Pelosi, and she was the one that said, no National Guard. No, we're not gonna do that. Or was it, no, maybe I'm wrong on that. I'll actually, to be honest, maybe she wanted the National Guard to get live ammunition. That's what I'm thinking that she actually said. Yeah, I think the Democrats actually were pushing for the National Guard, and they wanted to bring out like live ammo or some shit like that. Something fucking crazy. Anyway, you guys are lame. Maybe a Senate GOP cut $1 billion. Failing DC crime rates isn't the time to insert a military intervention, but support the work of local government After decades of federal neglect, during a prolonged period of crime spikes and pleas from local government for support, no one buys the storyline. Yeah? Actions like repealing D.C.'s unconstitutional gun laws and bringing it to the same levels as federal laws? No, of course not. Wasn't D.C. funded last year when the murder rate was the 4th highest city in the country? Right. Y'all realize even Nixon is embarrassed by you. You anything by resigning? Have the balls to call the guard on January 6th. No Epstein coverage. Call up the guard because a kid named Big Balls got beat up by preteen girls. Yeah, okay, dude. All right, whatever. D.C. was set to be under federal law. Somewhere along the line, it was given independent civilian government. Yeah, see, that's a good point, too. Politicians prey on the people who listen and don't read, research, not feeling. Pathetic and disgusting. Van Hollen definitely should be removed. Dems are the party of crime. Yeah. Epstein files. Hey, man, I tend to agree with that. I don't know why they didn't release them. You hate U.S. for our freedoms. Epstein. Yep, people are still asking about Epstein. Epstein. Let's see. Say what you want, but we all know who has the most to lose here. Dude, if he was on the Epstein files, they would have released it when Kamala was desperately trying to win in 2024. Even Hillary Clinton would have absolutely used that information because then Trump wouldn't have been president in the first place. See? Same thing there. They would have fucking used it. It's not because Trump's in the documents. They would have fucking released it, dude. Look, Adam Schiff. He was just like, they just declassified information showing that not only Adam Schiff, but also, what was his name? Eric Swallowswell. They were leaking information to the press while they were doing the fucking Trump impeachment bullshit during the height of Russiagate. So they're desperately leaking information, trying to make Trump look bad. Completely fake information that was taken from a Steele dossier. That wasn't even real information in the first place. But you mean to tell me that they had Trump on the Epstein client list the entire time they didn't use it? Come on, man. Give me a fucking break. Whatever, man. All right. Let's move on from that. That was fun. All right, so Ted Cruz, like all charlatans at Gavin Newsom, resorts to insults and distractions to hide the truth. Gavin, 2 questions. Number 1, why do the 38% of California Republicans deserve 0 representation? I mean, I will correct them and say that technically 25% of registered voters in California are Republicans, not 38%. The number 38% is the number of voters who voted for Trump in the last election. But anyway, and number 2, if California goes to 100%, why shouldn't Texas? It's a fair question. Ted Cruz treating his posts like Cancun. He gets caught and then disappears. Gavin Newsom, blah, blah, blah. California gerrymanders. Oh, here it is. Ted Cruz. If California gerrymanders from its current 43-9 Democrat advantage to a 51-0 Democrat advantage, 100%, then Texas should go from a 24-14 GOP advantage to 38-0. I mean, yeah, math is math. They're not, look, I was reading Gavin Newsom stuff before. Maybe he slipped something through that I didn't catch. But he was talking about adding 5 more Democrats and subtracting 5 Republicans by gerrymandering, which would bring it from 43-9 to, oh wait, no, hold on. Yeah, from its current 43-9, so it'd be 4. It'd be 48-4. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm giving Gavin Newsom credit there, but whatever. So anyway, yeah, I mean, we already know how the comments are going to turn out on that, so we'll just move on from that one. Anyway, just figured that might as well just be mentioned. So from Catherine Herridge, with the newly declassified records via FBI Director Kash Patel into media leaks and the role of third parties, Director Comey's 2017 testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee about leaks appears problematic. At Chuck Grassley, Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? So let's hear what he has to say about this. Or let's hear what he said back in 2017.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Oh, no, that didn't work. All right. Whatever.
Question 2 on relatively related. Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
Has any classified information relating to President Trump or his associates been declassified and shared with the media?
Not to my knowledge.
You testified before the House Intelligence Committee that a lot of classified matters have ended up in the media recently. Without getting into any particular article,
Adam
I want to
Schiff and
emphasize
Eric
without getting
Swalwell.
into any particular article,
I believe that's where those leaks came from.
is there an investigation of any leaks of classified information relating to Mr. Trump or his associates?
Of course not.
I don't want to answer that question, Senator, for reasons I think you know. There have been a variety of leaks. Well, leaks are always a problem, but especially in the last 3 to 6 months. And where there is a leak of classified information,
from what I understand,
the FBI, if it's our information, makes a referral to the Department of Justice, or if it's another agency's information, they do the same, and then DOJ authorizes the opening of an investigation. I don't want to confirm in an open setting whether there are any investigations open.
I want to challenge you on that because
the
government regularly acknowledges when it's investigating classified.
Hold on, I should have shut that up.
Are there any investigations open?
I'll shut up.
I want to challenge you on that because the government regularly acknowledges when it's investigating classified leaks. You did that in the Valerie Plame case. What's the difference here?
Well, the most important difference is I don't have authorization from the department to confirm any of the investigations they've authorized. And it may be that we can get that at some point, but I'm not going to do it sitting here in an open setting without having talked to them.
Yeah, right. Oh, my God, dude. Freaking idiots. All right. I think that's in relation to... Damn it, I did it again. I think that's in relation to the emails that DNI Tulsi Gabbard released. When was that? Yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I wish you would have connected more to that. No. From Kash Patel. That's right. Newly declassified records via Director Kash Patel into media leaks. I did share this. I want to say it was yesterday. I don't know how much he's posted today, but maybe I'll be able to find it. Oh, wait. What is this? All right. Hold on. I'm not going to get sidetracked. 12 hours. Let's see. August 13th. That's not it. But I think we're close. No. August 11th. I know what she's talking about. I just read it. All right, here it is. We found it. We declassified it. Now Congress can see how classified information was leaked to shape political narratives and decide if our institutions were weaponized against the American people. Exclusive Democrat whistleblower told the FBI that Schiff okayed leaking classified information intel to hurt Trump. Did he link the... Yeah, here it is, from Just the News. And I did read this. It must have been the day before yesterday. It might have been on Tuesday, maybe even possibly on Monday, actually. A career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then-Rep Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then-President Donald Trump over the now-debunked Russiagate scandal, according to bombshell FBI memos that Director Kash Patel has turned over to Congress. The FBI 302 interview reports obtained by Just the News state the intelligence staffer, a Democrat by party affiliation who described himself as a friend to both Schiff, now a California senator, and former Republican House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes, considered the classified leaking to be unethical, illegal, and treasonous, but was told not to worry about it because Schiff believed he would be spared prosecution under the Constitution's speech and debate clause. No publicly disclosed opinion from the Attorney General or the Solicitor General can be found making that determination as a matter of law, so on and so forth. You can read the FBI interview reports here. So I'll link this into the description if you want to get into the details. But yeah, apparently, according to what's her name, that shared that video of Comey, apparently Comey knew about it. So, there you have that. And let's head back here. Yeah, Catherine Herridge. All right, so let's roll on down to the next one from Homeland Security. The fake news media is desperate for allegations of inhumane conditions at ICE detention facilities to be true. So they can slow down POTUS's plan to partner with states to turbocharge efforts to remove the worst of the worst. Yeah, they keep doing that. Again, something I just shared last week. There were Democrats that showed up to one of the ICE facilities and they were complaining about the ICE agents wearing masks. And what are they hiding from? It's because they're kidnapping these people and they're doing all these terrible things. And they wouldn't let the members of Congress in right away because they didn't make an appointment. Because before, they want to make sure that the place is secure before they start letting Congress members come in and start visiting with violent fucking criminals. But as soon as they let them in through the front gates, they wouldn't allow the press to enter because they said they would be trespassing because the press wasn't permitted. Only members of Congress are authorized to do so. Even though the protocol is that they got to give some notice so they can secure the building first, make sure everything's on the up and up. As far as safety, not because they're hiding shit, but as soon as it was 3 Democrat Congress members, when they walked through the gates and ICE closed the gates behind them, they turned around and started talking to the press, and they immediately said that they're locking us in here, they're not letting us get out. They're fucking evil. They are evil. All right. Oh, no, man, I maxed out that. Yeah, that Comey testimony was very quiet, so I maxed out the volume.
And while the
all right, we're good.
And the legacy media mob can refer to these prisons, which is what they are, and they're temporary because you're deporting them as internment camps and concentration camps. In reality,
and so if they're holding them, why don't they just deport them right away? Probably because they have to coordinate with the country that they're being deported to make sure they got a prison cell there waiting for them. That's just my belief.
Terrorists,
I'm assuming that's what they're doing.
Murderers, rapists, other violent criminals, cartel members, gang members, and drug dealers. Right or wrong?
Absolutely. That is exactly who we're detaining. And the ICE detention standards are the highest in the country. The quality and the excellence to which we maintain a lot of these criminals and individuals is something that many states and local law enforcement agencies aren't able to qualify for. So we're grateful for the partnerships we've been able to build with local law enforcement and states who want to have these detention centers, want to help facilitate this kind of enforcement action. And we need to remember, Sean, that 70% of the people that we are incarcerating in these detention centers that we are bringing into detention have charges and criminal convictions against them. And that's not even counting those individuals like you referenced earlier in your show, those 2 individuals who were wanted for those murders in Mexico. That's not even in those 70%. So many of these individuals that we are picking up off our streets are wanted for violent crimes in other countries. And these other countries are wanting their criminals back so they can prosecute them and bring them, their families, some justice. So it's really amazing what President Trump has been able to do in just these first
few months. They did let out a lot of them from the prisons they were already in.
Administration, because he takes bold leadership action, and America is only going to benefit from it, and our families are going to have the ability to sleep in their beds peacefully again.
All right, Secretary Noem.
All right, well, that's all we can do. Round them up, hold them in detention, get them all set up to be deported, and get them the hell out of here. All right, this comes from BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Unemployment rates higher in 217 metro areas from June of 2024 to June of 2025. I'm going to have a look at that map, and that's what it's looking like. The dark spots are 8% and higher. So actually, it's kind of hard to tell, really. It looks like the majority of it is actually 4.4 to 7.9. 2, 3. I'm trying to see where there might be spot. Yeah, there's a dark spot right there in Texas. Obviously in California. Nobody wants to work in California. They all went the universal basic income. Let's just give us a whole bunch of entitlements because we have a right to have free everything at the expense of everybody else who has to labor for their money. But yeah, so that's what that's looking like right now. So unemployment rate looks like it's not getting better exactly. I mean, it says it's higher. So I don't know, man. We'll just have to see which direction things are going to go with the tariffs and with the companies. Of course, not all of them, probably not even most of them, but some of the companies are returning back to the U.S., so that's arguably going to open up a lot of jobs that are to be had. So this comes from the GOP, and they reposted Donald J. Trump's Truth Social post And it reads as follows. Washington, D.C. has one of the highest crime rates in the world, more than many of the most violent third world countries. The city's homicide rate is higher than places notorious for their violence, such as Mexico City, Bogota, Islamabad, and Addis Ababa, almost 10 times higher than Fallujah, Iraq. If D.C. were a state, it would have the highest homicide rate of any state in America. The violent crime rate in D.C. has worsened, and the murder rate has essentially doubled in just over a decade. But these are only the official statistics released by corrupt city officials. The real numbers are many times worse. In fact, a precinct commander was just suspended for allegedly manipulating the violent crime statistics, and the D.C. Police Union, likewise, says the real numbers are much higher. Because the Democrat governor of D.C. has largely stopped investigating, arresting, and prosecuting most crime, the published statistics don't even capture a fraction of the actual violence. No one is arrested for shoplifting. Citizens living in fear have largely given up on calling the police, instead choosing not to walk the streets after dark, essentially becoming captive prisoners in their own city. Stores lock up their merchandise behind glass walls. I mean, that's happening all over blue cities. Gang youth violence is so common it goes largely unreported. Vehicle theft in D.C. is more than 3 times the national average. Schools are completely dysfunctional. Citizens are afraid to speak up or call the police lest they be targeted. The real crime rates are probably 5 to 10 times what has been reported. D.C. has been under siege from thugs and killers, but now D.C. is back under federal control where it belongs. The White House is in charge. The military and our great police will liberate the city, scrape away the filth, and make it safe, clean, habitable, and beautiful once more. So there you go. All right, from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, visit our Worst of the Worst webpage to learn more about each criminal alien. All right, let's check it out. This is an image, but I'm assuming they've... Oh, nope. I guess I clicked on the wrong thing here. All right, let's go with this. See if they got it linked below. Yeah, here we go. ICE.gov is where this is located. All right, so check out our latest high-profile and worst of the worst arrests to get a closer look at the criminal aliens we've recently taken into custody. Each of the illegal aliens you see here has been convicted or accused of heinous crimes that put the American public at risk, but they're currently in ICE custody or have already been removed from the United States. So this is the list as follows. That dude's from Ukraine. Good grief, man. Honduras, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Mexico, El Salvador, Afghanistan. This dude's from Afghanistan. Let's see, Mexico, El Salvador. And yeah, it just goes on and on. On and on. And look at this. That's page 1 of how many pages? Is it 8? Is that how many pages they put up? Yeah, 8 pages. So what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. So that's 20 per page. So what is that, 160? Am I doing the math right? I think I'm doing the math right. Roughly about 160. Well, 159. They don't have the last one there. So yeah, there's a lot. And that's what they call the worst of the worst. So what page was this? Was this the last page? Yeah, the last page. So let's see. ICE Philadelphia arrested Edmundo Vasquez Gaxiola July 16. Vasquez is a Mexican criminal alien convicted of aggravated indecent assault of a child in Pennsylvania. Good grief. This guy was arrested. He's from Mexico, convicted of molesting a child in California. Horrible. Absolutely deplorable, man. Convictions for smuggling aliens, escape, and illegal re-entry into Texas. Been convicted of second-degree R-word, that guy. Yep, the worst of the worst, as they said. So that'll be linked below if you want to check that out on ice.gov/WOW for worst of worst. So you want to check out that list. There's plenty to read. All right, this comes from... Oh, wait, hold on. Where are we? Nope. Got to go back. There we go. All right, Congressman Byron Donalds. Currently in D.C., if you're under 25 and commit a crime, you're not charged as an adult. My bill, H.R. 4922, the D.C. Crimes Act, acknowledges reality and ensures if you're 18 plus that you're charged as an adult. And this is common sense. 90% of 7 News DC viewers agree. 90%. Pass H.R. 4922. So we'll check this out briefly here.
So today we're asking you to weigh in. Should adults 18 to 24 years old receive youth sentences? Yes or no? To answer, all you have to do is scan that QR code that's on your screen. So far, the majority of you are voting no.
That is absolutely
we'll
crazy.
Continue to update you on these results throughout the evening.
Dude, it is absolutely ridiculous. And there's nothing to argue in favor of that in any way at all. And I mean, it's only going to get worse unless it remains under federal control, really. Because I'm sure if you look at the real statistics, as President Trump alluded to, or that there are, hopefully we'll actually get those numbers. Hopefully they're going to actually compile that. Will the feds be able to look into their databases? I assume they will be able to. So maybe we'll actually get some real numbers from them. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But all right, anyway, that's it. That is all I got for today. I'll put everything that I pulled up in the articles down in the description below if you want to check out all that information. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. It'd mean the world to me if you subscribe. And I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. I also post the daily episodes to my X account, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and God bless America.